was a hell of an adventure, but
Today they claim we take down 11 statues, so...
For some reason they were trying to set us up to each other, or...
Interesting is the dates. You know, 2 days ago it was 11, yesterday it was 12, today it's 13.
I really enjoy the fact that some people who uploaded this video call themselves Anonymous Official.
There's your red flag already, right?
Yeah.
Is everybody here basically in Europe?
yeah.
For the most part, I mean.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bard, I just come out of the Egyptian theater. I made a wrong turn somewhere, and I ended up right in front of a Scientology retail shop. There were bad books in different languages. There was a guy in front with a weird shirt on, asking me like if he could talk to me, and I just ran. I didn't know what to do. I made a live video, and I ran very fast.
Violence against you. Don't give them any excuse, because you are staying within the law when you are protesting, and you're not breaking any laws. And make them be the first ones to break the law.
Lacking all emotion, staring down the barrel, waiting for the final gates to open to a new tomorrow, moving with the motion, following the light that sets me
Because if you are using violence, you're giving the powers who are in control the excuse to use violence against you. They're painting a very bad picture of you by being violent protesters. Well, it is your right to protest, so you can do this without any violence. Yeah, well, you have this racist guy. Then he runs over someone with a car, and then you have all these Antifa protesting in America, and then directly as a response, like a week later, then all these Nazis in Germany start protesting.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like
So
all over the world now, right?
try to divide us.
There are many things wrong with
False flag, of course.
media. Loves these false flags.
Most of the time these things just are created to make new laws, you know.
That is true.
we find the news now. We make the news, we find the news. We have to hack databases and security systems in order to get actual news anywhere in the United States.
We're following this idea of anonymous. Yeah, and I'm reading this in the comments now. Someone says anonymous hacking ABC News to find out which journalist wrote the story. Would actually be a good idea, I guess. Anonymous is not a group, so it's not the same thing as Antifa.
And remember, we do not fear, we do not regret. Expect us.
Sometimes it's hard not to want to shut people up. It's a frustration of hate, when really, if we're going to be about free speech no matter what, we have to hear everyone. And so, I don't know, it becomes a battle. It really does. What would you guys say is your most woke news sources that we can pay attention to here in the United States in order to get real news?
People who follow like certain ideas, right? And it's not always about these people themselves, but it's about the ideas they follow.
Been thinking a lot lately that they have just been throwing out all these topics so that we have things to fight about on the internet.
Live right now.
Okay, so we are back now.
Yes. Right.
Okay. Okay, welcome everyone to Anonymous Bite You Back. Another special episode about Palestine and about Gaza in particular. We got a number of amazing guests in our show. I'll start out just mentioning them. I'll start with Hasib Asghar. He's a freelance journalist and a documentary maker from Karachi in Pakistan. We got Wafa Aludaini. She's a journalist based in Gaza. She worked for different agencies in the US and the UK, and she leads a youth group from Gaza to convey the message of the Palestinian people to the world. Then we have Shorouk Al-Hajjar, a graduate in the English language and a youth activist since he was since 6 years, doing a lot of work and activities for youth concerns. Then we have Janine Abu Ayas. She's the head of the NGO WWR and an activist from Germany. She learned about the Palestinian issues shortly after the last war in 2014 and became active in helping with the situation. And then we have Danny Cormier back again. He was on our show before. He talked a few hours with us about the entire situation, and very proud to have him back again. He's a citizen journalist and an amazing human rights activist. He currently lives in the United States, where he does a lot of work for activists in Gaza, and he focuses on social media as a critical tool of resistance. And then we have Ibrahim Shaikh, the human rights activist. There's a long history of activism. It started out during the Bosnian War in 1995, where he launched the operation, the Bosnian Relief Appeal Task. And he was very young back then, and now he's 40 and he's still fighting. We're very happy having you all in the show. So this entire episode will be about the Gaza situation, about the Palestine situation, and also about the Great Return March. Maybe we should start with that a little. So I'm not sure who wants to start. Who wants to explain something about what the Great Return March is and why it was started, and who kind of started it?
I'm not sure if anyone wants to jump in or not. But I can help if that would help.
Oh yeah, maybe you should just start then.
Surely. The Great Return March actually started several months ago. Officially started at the end of March, but it was being planned much earlier in 2018. It began with a vision of a young man who lives in Gaza, Ahmed Abu Atema, that many people still really don't know. He's a very quiet man, but he's a very brilliant young man. And he had a dream that people would gather in tented cities along the separation fence between Gaza and Israel, and that they would be a social form of resistance, showing what life was like in Gaza, a really something along the lines of a Gandhian peaceful resistance action, and that it would go on definitely. Ahmed's vision was transferred from a personal vision into a commission of other activists and other social organizations in Gaza, as well as some of the political parties in Gaza, to plan the various activities. And those activities began on March 30th, if I'm not mistaken. And they've continued now, I believe, for 36 weeks. Primarily peaceful resistance, but sometimes a little less peaceful.
Yeah, about that starting date, March 30. So I've read it has to do with the commemoration of Land Day that marks the event of March 30, 1976, when the Israeli police shot and killed 6 Palestinian citizens of Israel as they protested against the Israeli government's expropriation of land. So that actually happened also on March 30, and then this the official starting date of that kind of like commemorates that.
That's correct. That's correct. It's I think it's taken a life of its own that may not have been originally anticipated.
Yeah, because like there are like many different protests. It's like a massive wave now. Different protests.
Well, they are protesting at 5 different locations on most Fridays, but they are also now protesting on Mondays, if I'm correct, in the north of Gaza, in the Beit Hanun area, right along the border with Israel. And that's a sea protest, or oriented more toward the sea. And they've been doing some night protests as well.
Okay, and it was like, or it is like primarily to call for like the right of return of Palestinian refugees, who of course have that right in international law, and the end of the siege imposed on the Gaza Strip.
That's correct. That was the original vision. It has expanded a little bit to include the breaking of the siege, where initially it was strictly the right of return. It was intended from day one to be a very peaceful situation. And it was intended to be gatherings of men, women, children, families, social organizations, in tented areas in 5 locations along the fence. Originally, several hundred meters from the actual border. This was not actually the beginning of border protest. There had been border protests in Gaza for many years before that.
Yeah, that's been going on for such a long time, as long as I can remember. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, young men were gathering there every Friday.
Yeah, I mean, the Palestinians there suffered.
Sorry,
yeah, I mean, these protests, of course, you can expect them because. No, it's fine, and maybe it's a lag too. I just know that the Palestinians are like suffering under these siege, and it's innocent people always being victims of all of this. So yeah, of course there will be protests.
One of the things that's happened.
Yeah, I'm wondering what the other guests. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I was going to say
we're dealing with a little lag here, so.
Yeah, one of the things that's happened, which is first, is the ability for this protest to be broadcast. Although some of that capability was available a few years ago, It's become more widespread now. So the protest can be seen publicly, certainly 10 years ago, or during intifadas and that type of thing. So it's really a different kind of an event than has ever taken place before, because it is public worldwide.
Yeah, and what I always notice support from the entire world for this for the Palestinian case. I mean, you can see that people are really worried about the Palestinian people, and are really shocked about how this oppressive regime is like treating them. But I wonder, because we have many guests in, I wonder, you all of you guys are all involved with the Palestinian case in one way or another. Can you maybe share your personal experiences with this? Maybe start from left to right. Ibrahim, maybe.
Hello, and thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum to any Muslim brothers or sisters in the group. And I've been listening attentively. Thank you for prompting me. I am a South African activist, and I started activism the year 1995 with the Bosnian War, and I have been all sorts of wars worldwide, including the Syrian war, etc. But my focus and a lot of time that I've spent on in my life has been regarding the Palestinian war and the issue in Palestine. And so I'm glad to be part of this group tonight discussing this. My colleague Leila is in the group here, who's invited me to this. And with regards, so that's who I am, and that's the introduction. With regards to my views on Palestine, the Palestinian situation goes back a long way, back to World War II, as we all know the history. But I just want to add something very important, and I think this is strictly from a South African point of view, and I know we have some international listeners here, so I just want to put this point across. Back in the days before South Africa was liberated, South Africa was the only other apartheid state in the world. And why I want to talk about that is because the only remaining apartheid state that remains in the world is now this Israel state, if you want to call it a state. I don't recognize it as a state, but for the purposes of my point and argument, we will just call it the Israeli state. Now, so the thing is, South Africa has been liberated for 24 years from the apartheid system, and we've moved on in the so-called democracy. But we have definitely noted in the last 24 years of democracy that the Israeli influence in our country, South Africa, is still strong. We must not forget that when South Africa was an apartheid state, it was a sister state of Israel, and they shared nuclear weapons, nuclear technology, all sorts of information was shared between the intelligence services in both countries. And even though South Africa has now been liberated politically and moved on democratically, we find the Israeli influence in this country still very strong. And to the international listeners out there, I want them to know that as a South African, I can confirm that the Israeli influence in South Africa is still very strong. They've infiltrated political parties. I'm not going to mention them for my own safety's sake. This issue, obviously, as you know, is very delicate, very sensitive. So we must be careful what information we put out there. But before I actually go and talk about the situation in Gaza, Palestine, as we speak in the Middle East, I think the international listeners need to know And it's my duty to put it out there that the Israeli influence in South Africa is still very strong. So that's the one point I want to make. The second point that I want to make is with regards to the conflict at the moment on the ground, so to speak. Well, look, this situation is obviously ridiculous. The protests are going on worldwide, and the protests will continue. But honestly, if we don't unite as one single body against the situation, you can protest and protest as much as you want, and we are really not going to get anywhere. I'm part of the BDS movement in South Africa as well. BDS has a lot of success with regards to applying pressure. But again, I don't think it's going to be significant enough pressure because boycotting certain products in small quantities is not really going to hurt Israel big enough. But the 2 points, the second point that I want to make is that there is a place for BDS movement, there is a place for protesting, but we really need to look at this one-party solution or two-state solution. We really need to look at that. Which one is viable? Which one is going to work? And my second point, or my second question out to the group is, what is going to work here? Is it going to be a one-state solution or a two-state solution? Me personally, I would like to see a two-state solution because the one-state solution has been pushed for the last 10, 15, 20 years, maybe even longer. And it has yielded nothing but more losses of territory to the Israeli side. And I think it's just one big lie. This one-party solution, this two-party state is not a solution. It's a lie designed to keep. Actually, if you look at the solution, whenever it was brokered by the Americans or whoever wanted to broker a deal, there was always one side breaking the rules, and then we have the conflict that we have repeatedly, and so on and so on. So the two-party state, is it a solution or is it an excuse just to continue the land grab that's going on? As far as I'm concerned, it's a land grab excuse because there'll never be a two-party state in the country. So I've said a lot now, and I think maybe I'll give an opportunity to the rest of the group to comment on what I said. And just to summarize, first point is that Israeli influence in South Africa is still very heavy, and we see the exchange of information and intelligence between the two countries still significantly here. And the second point is, will the two-party or the two-state solution work in Israel? So that's it from my side.
Okay. This is a good question, and maybe others in the chat want to reply to this. Whoever wants to.
I think the problem with the two-state solution as it stands at the moment is the continuation of the illegal settlements, particularly in the West Bank, and what we're seeing with Israel is a situation where they're constantly saying the Palestinians don't recognise the Israeli state. That's not the question. The question is, when will Israel recognise Palestine? And there isn't a willingness on the Israeli side to do that. In fact, it's clear from the start now and they're becoming more upfront and more emboldened, particularly with the Trump administration, that they want the lot. I'm not so sure that there is a viable two-state solution left now, the way I see it, and what should be mentioned as far as the right of return is concerned, is it was conditional on Israel being accepted into the United Nations. That under Resolution 194, that the Palestinians were given the right of return. So I think that what I would like to see is a one-state solution with universal rights for all, But obviously, those people who haven't been born in the Holy Land, in Palestine, in occupied Palestine, would, like anybody else, would have to apply for a visa if they wanted to live there. But I'm not so sure there's enough left of Palestine to have a viable two-state solution anymore. And indeed, I'm not so sure that Israel, in its current state, has the right or the humanity to be considered as a viable nation in its own right, because its motives are basically to have the lot. So it's universal rights for all, with Jerusalem as the capital of Palestine, and a United Nations de facto world capital is what I would propose. Now, the reason, of course, Israel won't accept that is because it'll no longer be able to hold the majority as a Jewish state in its right, if it allows the. So what was that?
Mike, do you hear me?
Yes, yeah. Yes, I can hear you, yeah.
Mike?
Hello, yes, I can hear you.
We can hear you fine.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I don't know if it's true to speak about this now, but let us talk about the suffering of the people who got injured from the Great Return March, because it's really, really, really miserable things to live such situations after protesting in a peaceful way. I would like to shed light on the experience of one of the journalists who have been shot with a live ammunition, exploded bullet by the Israeli snipers. This case we have been working on by the WWR, the Worldwide Resistance Charity. Me and Janine and Mike, who's always, who's also in this charity, they have been following me. I'm talking about one of the burners who have been shot in his knee. It was an exploded one, which is forbidden to use from the weapons they're allowed to use and the aggressions, something like that. It used it to harm the Palestinians. But after he has been shot, he has denied to be moved outside in order to be treated in other countries. After he have been following with the doctors and the health ministry, they told him that he has to be transferred for another country in order to have a giant knee replacement and to have an artificial giant. A few days we have been working on this. We try to facilitate his journey, and Janine made an invitation for him, and we start to fundraising for him in order to be treated in Germany. We did the reservation in Heidelberg Hospital. After 1 month, we have been moved to Egypt through the.
Interruption, I think.
Yeah, it happens a bit. I was trying to fix it here on this end too, but I could follow this now. Let me see. We have two more guests. If you want to give your personal experience about the situation.
Now back in.
Sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, you just
So I
yeah.
could tell more about this because I don't know what is with Farouk now. She has always like this internet corruption. We tried to took him out to Germany, but the embassy here in Egypt, the German embassy, make always the games. We try to to invite him 2 times, and they always cut without any reason. They claim that he wants to be a refugee or something else, but they see what happened to him. But we try all kind to play with us. And this is Egypt. Egypt is also like, they are the same like in Israel.
They are supporting Israel.
They are supporting extreme. So he is since now in Egypt, and we can't do anything. Germany is waiting. I get also a second doctor who is really interested to help him, also like to operate him in Tulans, that we don't pay any money, but they are not interested. They are really not interested. I have a main job, I have a full-time job, I have a good salary, but they don't say yes. They let him stay in Egypt and he must go back to Gaza, like so.
That's outrageous.
Yeah. Yes, this is what I want to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there somebody else that want to talk or?
Janine?
Go ahead, Leila. We can hear you.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying Janine is here as well, and Sharuk.
What again?
You can all have a chance at speaking.
Sorry, Baba, I don't understand you.
Okay, give us your view as well.
Yeah, I'm here. I didn't understand what you want to ask me or what you want to say.
No, I said your view on it, on the Great Return March.
I created, wait.
Your view on the march. Yeah.
Yeah, just talk about. Just if you want, you can give your just
opinion.
view on Palestine and the situation. It's just so listeners know a bit.
I think you have to understand Janine is actually working at the moment as well, so it's difficult for her to be continuous in the debate. I think I can hear that she's working in the background.
I heard it too. Yeah.
Sorry. But that's all right. What I will say, and as far as the vision of the Great Return March has proved internationally, I think it's probably been one of the most powerful examples of human resistance in the world. But what it has also highlighted is the sheer almost the immunity to the inhumanity that's perpetrated by Israel upon the Palestinians. We heard about Adam, the journalist there, Sharuk, mentioned that we're trying to get medical aid for. He was shot with a bad explosive bullet. And this is non-violent not non-violent demonstrations. It's a disproportionate force, which Israel has clearly stated they're going to use, and yet the political community and the global community have hardly said anything. I mean, we've seen more casualties on the Great March to Return. Since we're now into something like 23,000 casualties, over 225 people murdered, ranging from children, the disabled, journalists, medics, etc., etc. Still, although the moral high ground is with the Palestinian people, the international community, despite calls for protection from the UN, etc., has largely remained, and we seem to be accepting this barbarity and inhumanity, and we're now seeing almost like a mirror image of it taken border to a lesser degree. So it's a question of really what is it going to take to for the global community to say enough is
no, that's a very good point. And when you look at social media and like on all these places on the internet, and you do notice that a lot of people are actually in support of the Palestinian case, and what is happening to these people. But we do have like a lot of international listeners, and what I would like to ask is like, what people actually do now, right now, to help with this case.
This is Dennis again. Although I would love to see people in the streets in a big way right now, I don't think that's going to happen. If it was going to happen, it would have happened. Now, it is happening in small ways throughout the world, and certainly in many, many cities in the UK and in many other countries, there are people that are gathering. But when you see the numbers, it's just not significant enough to get the attention that it needs. So my own feeling, and I'm sure I'm not alone in this, is that we need to become more of our own media, even more than we've been. It's certainly not going to hit the major networks very much, and the mainstream media has portrayed this as a violent action on the part of the Palestinians from day one. So, and that has been, although many other people have written about it as non-violent action, it still has the image of violent action because of the media, whatever they've done, and they've done very little. I continue to think, although there's a little bit of fatigue right now in the community, it continues to happen in Gaza, and if it's going to continue to happen in Gaza every Friday, they need to depend on us every Friday to be with them. And if we cannot do it on a massive basis, activists really need to put the time in right now. That's my feeling. And they need to, this is the time. There seems to be some changes taking place in the United States, which is the major player against Palestine. But there are some changes taking place. This would be the perfect time for there to be more communication and not the time for less communication. So even though we're a little bit tired after 36 Fridays, They're certainly more tired in Gaza than we are internationally. I think we really got to get with them on Fridays and on an ongoing basis. It's not sexy like war.
No, it is.
There's another war. If there was another war, there would be all kinds of interest.
Yeah, that's what we're dealing with, like an ongoing apathy, a social media apathy, or it's like limited to discussions about it, or sharing things, but
not much action, and actually very little sharing. I can tell you that because I'm just looking at my own numbers and my own work. There's just, unless there's a war, and with all the war pornography that goes along with the war, there's just a little less interest. Now, it doesn't mean there's no interest, but a lot of the interest is talking to the choir. And talking to the choir doesn't make change. It makes us feel good, makes us feel wonderful, like we're doing something, but in fact, we're talking to the choir. We kind of need to expand beyond that. Maybe taking risks, a little more risk in our communications than we are right now.
What do you mean by taking more risks then?
What I mean by my risk, for instance, Mark Lamont Hill went public with his feelings in a very, even though he knew he would be attacked, he had to have known he would be attacked. I think we need to be a little more aggressive in our stance at times. And I'm one man. I haven't got it all figured out. So when I say that, Mike, I mean that there has to be, I think, a little more movement. Certainly, they're doing that in Gaza. Now, many people are critical of the fact that people are throwing stones. Now, we can't throw stones in Boston, Massachusetts. It's not going to do much. But we can certainly expand beyond our base of supporters. Our social media, by and large, is talking to other supporters. By and large. Many people have even cut off communication with the broader world and are just talking to their friends. I think we need to move beyond that. I think we need to move to the all communicating, if we can. Not everybody can do this, but if we can, like yourself, we should be communicating to the public and not just to a small group of friends. Also, if somebody is doing something like one post a day or a week about the Palestinians, it's not doing a whole lot in the social media area. Now, I'm not talking to people like yourself, Michael, or to Wafa, or to some of our other people who are on this call, but the people that might be listening. It's one post a week is not enough. One post a week to your friends who are not beyond the circle of the poor. So my own feeling is that we need to ramp it up. This week, when Mark he was fired, that brought immediate attention to Palestine. Some negative, but a whole lot of positive. A whole lot of positive. So I'm not going to go before the UN and do the same thing. I can't. I won't even be invited. They're not even interested. However, we need to ramp up a little bit. Even on the social media area, if we can't do it in the public square, we can do it. That's my feeling.
Yeah, and you are a big advocate of use distance. So I was thinking, like, you also have many YouTube channels and stuff about these subjects, and to actually make a change, we have to also connect them with each other, that they also help each other bringing these messages out to the public. Like that is not always just one YouTube channel posting something and the other day another one, but just that they also all start working together, fighting back.
I agree with you. I mean, if you analyze what's happening on social media now, for the most people are either posting or tweeting only their own material, for the most part. If they share that photograph. If they write a story, they share that story. But they're not sharing other people's work. Now, we can't share everybody's, but if we come across things that are very powerful, we need to share them. We need to share them, especially on places like Twitter, because I do a post today, and there's a billion other posts that are going to be made on the same day on Twitter. It's going to disappear from the planet within hours. But if Mike Farah does a post and Wafa Udani does post, I share Wafa's work. I share some of Michael's work, and I think that's critical, that we not just do our own little unique, more in communion with other activists, not necessarily always communicating with them day to day, but at least their efforts as well as our own, because we can do more as a group than we can as individuals.
Yeah, I totally agree with it, and Twitter is a good example of it. I mean, it is probably the most powerful tool to get the message out right now, because you can actually go worldwide with your hashtag. So you have to support each other and reach like top certain keywords, and you will reach a lot of people. But you need the help of others to do it. So
you're right. We can't. I can't do it alone. But yesterday, for instance, I posted the speech on Facebook of the Professor Hill.
In this regard,
and that was shared.
I would like to thank. Yeah.
Go ahead,
I don't know whether you can hear me. Yeah. In this regard, I would like to thank you some. Being part whenever we have a Twitter storm, you are just a strong ally, to us. So you support us by your words when you share our works, when you just join us in the storm. So really, it's so powerful and so strong, and really we thank you so much, and we like Mike and Janine and everybody who is who support us here in Palestine, because we are in a very bad need to everybody around the world, because that the mainstream media around the world, they just disappointed us, and they just distorted our image, especially the people in the West. So the only way that we can reach the whole world is using the social, launching a Twitter storm, posting videos and photos on social media, so that everybody around the world can hear and can interact with us, can believe us, because we are talking about ourselves, our experience. The point is, we are just in need to every single person in this world, because without you, without the people, like the free world, like you, without you, we cannot achieve anything, because we are just because here we need your voice. Hello? Okay. I don't know whether you hear my voice. Okay. Yeah, okay. So, this is good. And really, without we cannot, achieve anything indeed, because we are here. We don't have like that strong media that the Israelis have, So we are just, having our just simple media, media outlets. I mean, so yeah. So So really, we are in a very bad need to everybody, like from the free world around the world, like you all. Yeah. And I'm sure we can achieve the goal, like if we just stay together, if we complete each other. So it means that we are gonna achieve the freedom for everybody, around the world. Yeah, because this is, just a case and just cause. So we are just calling for justice, for freedom. So one day this freedom and this just will be prevailed in the whole world, inshallah, with your efforts all.
I know Wafa personally, and I know how hard she works. And I agree with her. There are a limited amount of people in Gaza who can do the kind of work which can impact the English-speaking or the French-speaking or the German-speaking world, because not everyone in Gaza can communicate well in English. Wafa is one of the exceptions in that area, and there are certainly many others. We need to encourage them by sharing their work. That has been my feeling from the beginning, because they might write something and it doesn't get distributed. It's not seen. It becomes very discouraging at times. Now, one thing I found with the Palestinians when I lived there, and even when I'm not, they're in this for the long term. They don't give up. But at the same time, if somebody goes to the trouble of writing a very excellent story and it's not shared in a big way, what a shame. What a shame. And I analyze, the only reason I'm even saying this, and it sounds kind of negative, I'm really not trying to be negative, I'm really trying to be and suggest things, is that when I see some very fine work coming out of Gaza from, let's say, from Ahmed Bertema, from Wafa, from Yusuf Mima, and many others, we are not numbers. If somebody shares their story 10 times, that's wonderful. But why aren't we sharing it 1,000 times? That is my question. And that just takes some coordination for the individual person saying, I'm going to really, instead of just writing a nice little post about Gaza today, I'm going to go out there and see what I can share that's significant that's coming out of Gaza. Now, they can share their own work as well, and maybe do 10 posts instead of one post if you have the time. I'm retired. I have the time. Unfortunately, time, as Wafa does, I'm sure as well. However, if Wafa is going to go to the great trouble, which it is, to create a Twitter storm, we need more than 10, 12 people participating. Now, someone doesn't have to participate for 10 hours, but they could jump in for 20 minutes. And so we need to encourage activists to do something. Activists get bored when there's nothing to do, when there's no march. They get bored.
True, yeah.
They get bored.
Yeah.
They get bored.
Yeah.
And they lose sight of it. When there's a war, there's all this excitement. There's also all kinds of deaths, which I experienced myself in Gaza. But unfortunately, that's what gets attention. So it's because there's something to do. There's something to do. It's no different than carrying a sign to get involved. Unfortunately, one march once a year just ain't enough. So we have to use the media. the reason I even say that is because I see the billions of dollars that Israel is pumping into the media. If they're doing that, and if they have their army doing that, and if they have college students doing that, plus all the free trolls doing that, even though they media war, they know the value of the media. They really do.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we as a group of activists, we are very well aware of our power, but not everyone else may not be well aware of their power. And we need to let them know that their voice is critical. We need to let people know in Gaza that their voice is critical. And if we don't share their work, we're saying to them, your voice is not that critical.
Yeah,
You know, we need to encourage them. I mean, I want to encourage Wafa. I think she's doing great work. There's so many others, and every day, at least I share about 20 people's work every day, rather than writing my own stories. And it helps because then 50, 60 people see mine. And if 50, 60 people were sharing, then that would be a whole lot more people seeing it. And also, we need to begin pushing this stuff to the mainstream media, even though we're informal media, pushing our work toward the mainstream media. They'll pick up on it. And also pushing it toward the senators and congressmen in the United States, whether they listen or not. They will listen if they get communicated with. Not just once, twice, 3 times, but communicated with a lot. They can't not listen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I'm talking too much, and I don't mean to, but when you say to me, what can we do? We can do more of what we're doing. And we can do it smarter.
Yeah,
smarter is the main
I can reply to that because the mainstream media is actually very vulnerable to trends. So you have to create these trends with it. And what you're saying is true. We have to work together on this because if we have a major group effort and we create these trends, the media will actually pick up on it not because they care, but because it actually benefits them.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they pick up on a trend and they start broadcasting on about a trend, they will get their viewers too. So that's how they will pick up on it.
That's correct.
So
I believe you.
But just for these.
Yeah. And
and but just like real quick for the listeners, what should everyone follow? Can you give your accounts real quick that people can watch?
Are you talking to us?
For updates.
Yeah. Are you talking to us?
Let's start with you then, Danny, real quick. What accounts should people follow right now?
Beside my own, I think it's critical that people should be following the Electronic Intifada. Certainly, they're on Twitter as well as on Facebook. They're critical because that is sort of an alternate mainstream media, but it's really focused heavily on Gaza and it gets the stories. I think that people should be focusing on the writers of We Are Not Numbers because they are showing these are young writers in Gaza and in Lebanon. Now, there are certainly many other writers beside them, but this is a group of writers that are writing together as a group and being trained and tutored by professional writers worldwide. And they're doing some really good work. WeAreNotNumbers.org is their website. We Are Not Numbers is on Facebook and Twitter. That's just one. I think the work that Wafa is doing with the October group is critical. Now, that's not always in English, but some of it is. Women for Palestine. Although much of their work is in Arabic, they do some really fine work in English. Wafa, maybe you can help me because you know some of the others as well.
Yeah.
and I'm gonna forget some really important people.
Yeah, there is like Bell Info website, and there is Days of Palestine website, and also you can follow like the young writers and the young journalists on Twitter. You can find them like um, um, I don't know exactly, but there are like so many. Names, and I think they wrote Gaza. They are based in Gaza, so maybe if they can search for journalists or activists from Gaza, they are gonna find like hopefully many. Um, yeah.
I
Yes.
mean, Yusuf Mima is a very fine example of a writer in
Yes.
Gaza who writes
Yeah.
he doesn't write long things. He writes very simple stories, but he shares, I may be saying his name wrong, Saeed Shob, the photographer, Mohammed Sharab, the photographer, who tells wonderful stories about Gaza. Walid Mahmoud. I don't want to forget Walid, because Walid, like Wafa and many others, writes every single day, and he's there with his cameras at the marches. So Walid Mahmoud would be another one. I'm trying to think. Although she writes a little bit less than she used to, Farah Baker has been a resource. Omar Garib.
Yeah.
Although Omar doesn't write the politics, Omar writes the personal in Gaza. He's another side of Gaza, which, and he's been doing it for a long time. Been doing it for a long time. There are many.
Maybe,
there are many.
Yeah, there are many. Maybe we can like write them like I don't know where exactly, but maybe we can write them and then send it to everybody to follow them. Because I know, like for example, in the 16th October group, there are nearly 25 persons, 25 activists on the Twitter. So they are also writing about their daily experience here in the Gaza Strip and what they are facing every single day here in Gaza. Like they are talking about their experience and stuff like this. So maybe we can like write the names of the website that everybody should follow. Write the names of the people, the activists here that everybody should follow. I don't know if there is a way to write all of these things, together and then send them
We can
to
make
everybody
a
or
list.
not.
We can make a list, Wafa, and I can do it for you. And then we can share that on every platform.
Yeah, this is great. So I will help you to collect all of the names activists and the website, pro-Palestinian websites, and then we can, send it to everybody. Yeah, this is so.
Yeah, that will be good.
I think
There is actually. Yeah.
We may have lost Wafa there for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, another connection problem.
It's difficult.
Yeah, well,
it's difficult in Gaza sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, we can already be happy that she is even here. I mean, but
she's a wonderful lady.
Go ahead, you're back in. I think.
There's another thing that we can do to help each other, just sometimes by following each other and seeing what we're individually doing. I follow Wafa. I follow these same people that I mentioned to you, and I do that because I get cues from them very often about the personal stories of Gaza, because we obviously every Friday we get the news of the deaths, and on Mondays we get the who's been shot. But some of the positive stories of Gaza are still kind of critical, because if those of you that follow Twitter religiously know that a whole lot of misinformation is being pumped out every single day. I mean, the things that we read on Twitter, and I'm sure you all read them, are pretty horrific things being said about Gaza. Somebody needs to say the positive things as well. And now that's what people in Gaza are doing, but we can help them do that. We can help them do that. I mean, if they're one of the biggest challenges in the Great Return March in terms of publicity was that it was being attacked even before it began. I was having meetings with Ahmed Bertema on the internet, over and messaging and things like that, and the march hadn't even started yet. There hadn't even been a first gathering, and Israeli intelligence and Israeli troll farms and that type of thing were already publishing the names and addresses of people and stuff that were involved and the nasty things they were going to do. We should be prepared. We got to get the snipers to the border. All that was going on before the march. And then when the march began, what took the attention of a lot of people was the, what I'll call the more, violent is a bad word, but I'll use it because people will, the more aggressive aspects of the march, which were in place long before the march began, took the attention. Those things are always exciting. To have somebody being shot is going to be exciting, unfortunately. So all of the social events that were organized and all the tents and all of that, some of that got lost. And it was only lost because the attention was on what was going on at the fence. And so they were both critical. I mean, I saw Wafa and others post pictures of the doctor, and I have a major static issue there. But we didn't post enough of that. So what got the attention was the more violent aspects of it, which I don't consider violent, but that's what other people consider. So that got all the attention. We lost some of the other Gandhian nonviolent aspects, which was something I know Wafa was behind. Now, I'm not against the Stones. Personally, I'm not. I'm not against the fact, but that was not the intention of the march. And we lost some of that a little bit. Now, it is what it is right now, and I fully support it.
Yeah, you know why? Because this is like, the uprising, the popular uprising around the world, through history, you can people just gather or decide to uprise or decide to speak up for. Nobody can stop them. And then for myself, I just experienced the people, and I was among the people and looking at them. Nobody can stop them. And even if you wanna to ask the young youth, you can ask them and not to the fans. Then he's not gonna listen for you, because I don't know, there is something inside them, just moving, because it's popular, because there is, I don't know, they believe in their right. And
I agree.
There is
and they're
another
also
thing, yeah.
I was going to say they're also very angry, Wafa.
Yeah, exactly.
And and when they're together, that anger that's why I've supported it from the beginning, because I understood it. I saw it when I was in Gaza. I saw anger sometimes. Gaza is a very peaceful people, but I would sometimes see it in the teenagers who didn't have jobs, who couldn't afford to go out and buy a pack of cigarettes, which is about all they had to do when they couldn't get a job. I'm small examples, They could not go out with their friends. They couldn't get married. They couldn't get married. Their best friend was killed in the last war. These are all reasons for anger. I wish that it would have been a little bit more peaceful, but I know you can't stop it. One of my friends.
I totally agree with you.
When one of my Ahmed, when we first spoke, I said, they're already protesting at the border. They've been protesting for a few years. I was told when I was in Gaza, or I would get kicked out of Gaza. So I said, okay, I won't join them. I wanted to, but I couldn't. But they were already there at the border before it started. And they were already protesting in a way that they thought was the best way to do it. And that was to show you're not going to get away with what you're doing to us without having to deal with us. And so I told. Unfortunately, the Israelis use that, but they use everything. They use everything. They use any excuse they can.
For me, Denny, I know that, what does it mean to say border, but maybe, the mainstream media just use this word, and many terms that really kills me so much. For example, they are using the word border, and they never know that Israel has never declared its border.
That's
so
correct.
What we have are just armistice lines from 1949, and these lines also constitute 1976. There is no border, so just like a fence that separates Gaza from Israel. And also when they say like hiding Gaza, like you feel like they are just dying. Like I don't know, there is something happened. Just they say it, and they didn't say like they got executed by the Israeli snipers.
That's right. Yeah.
They just say also clash. And I don't know whether I didn't see any clashes because it is a buffer zone, and in the buffer zone there is no clashes because the people are just protesting in their own land, So there are so many terms, But the thing here, the people, there is something actually so significant, and for me, I still cannot understand. The people, the young youth who got injured, like some of them got injured 3 times and some of them 4 times. Imagine that when he got shot in the right leg, and next Friday he got shot in the right in the other leg, and he got shot many times, and then he come back to, or she come back to the fence, and then come back to protest, and then calling for his right and never stop. You feel like I'm sure that everybody, like anybody, outside Gaza maybe, or outside Palestine, maybe if he got shot once, so he's not gonna gonna protest again. But for those, not 1 or 2, I just like 100. Just Palestinian injured, and they got injured more than 1 time. Then they just vote to go back again to the fence and protest again. I don't know, the iconic Palestinian Ahed. I mean the guy who got shot twice.
Yes, he was a friend of mine.
Yeah. Abu Amr, Ahed Abu Amr, he is considered at the moment as a Palestinian iconic for popular resistance. So he got shot twice, and then I interviewed him last week, and he told me that I'm gonna go back again to the protest again. And even he was not bad, he was not in a good health, So there is something, deep inside the heart of those youth, and even elderly. There is something moving inside them. Nobody can stop them. They are just calling. They are just moving, so nobody can stop them. Even the organizers of the Great Return March, that nobody can stop them. So I think it's not about organizing or pushing anybody. It's about something inside them, pushing them to go and call for their rights, and to speak up and never stop. And I think this is basically the condition. Yeah.
Sometimes we, on the outside, I hear a lot, something that really bothers me when I hear it, but it has to do with what you just said. Sometimes people say to Palestinians, I see it in their tweets and responses and comments, be patient, be patient, be patient, forgetting that this has been going on now for 70 years, forgetting that the siege are well over 10. And we forget this. I remember people saying, be patient with the electrical situation in Gaza when I was living there. Because I wasn't very impatient because I was a guest and I lived in a building where they gave me a lot of electricity. But I knew that people were dealing with 8 hours of electricity a day or 4 hours later and really horrible situations. And I always heard the word, be patient. Well, yeah. I think that Palestinians are by nature patient.
The most patient people.
but I hate when we say be patient and don't do anything.
Kenny, it's easy for us to say be patient because we sit kids in our warm homes with all our electricity telling everyone to be patient.
That's right. I'm eating my chocolate bar and smoking my cigarette on the internet. And the poor guys next door to me in Gaza who lived there, there was a family of about 40 in a building right beside me. I lived in a nice apartment compound with a great landlord and safe building. But right next door to me were about 5 families living there, all in the same greater family. And these poor guys, I got to know them over a year and a half. I mean, forgive me if I talk about smoking, but, that was something we shared together. And it's just a really difficult situation. It's a very difficult situation. Now, it doesn't mean that everyone in Gaza is suffering the same way, which is another part of the communication is important, is because the more communication, the broader the picture of Gaza will be. I mean, very few people really know about all the students in Gaza. Wafa was a student, or she wouldn't be able to do it. Mohammed Shahada, who is now somewhere in Denmark writing articles about Gaza, was educated in Islamic University. So we need to know about that part of Gaza. We need to know about a lot of different parts of Gaza and not just the protest, although the protest is critical. And I agree with Michael, it's one of the most important things that's happened in Gaza, I think. It's been one of the most costly things that's happened recently. And it's very risky sometimes because it could stimulate a war, even though nobody wants a war. Because it's not because of the march, but just because of the situation in the area and because of Israel. But it's been the most successful in recent times other than a war. And a war is not very successful. It lasts 51 days or 14 days, and it does a huge amount of destruction and kills a huge amount of people. And you go to the hospitals and they're filled with horrific injuries. But when it's over, it's over. This has lasted 36 weeks. And it's been under Gaza control rather than under Israeli control. And that's made all the difference.
But also, it's, I think Israel's only got one tool, and that's military force and non-violence. is probably one of the things they fear the most, conscious of their image. And some of the citizen journalism and the out of the Great Return March has gone viral, and has the old adage, a picture paints says 1,000 words. It's really shown the extent of the cruelty and the barbarity to which the occupation forces are prepared to go. And I really do believe that non-violence is the one thing that is the Achilles heel of the IOF. Because they can't deal with it. They don't know how to deal with it. That's why they have to emphasise the flaming kites, the stone throws. I mean, it's pathetic to think that the fifth largest army in the world and the nuclear power is complaining because people who have been kept in the most torturous, barbaric, inhumane conditions for the past 11 years, and ongoing have the temerity to throw a few stones. I mean, this is ridiculous. It's unbelievable. But yet somehow they want to spin this. As Wafa was saying, they're spinning it almost as if it's a battle between equals. But I just find it absolutely astonishing the immunity to the inhumanity of the situation and the imbalance of the situation, and the fact that it's been tolerated. I just cannot believe that we are still here when this is going on. That we are allowing this man-made, that probably the biggest humanitarian man-made crisis that we have seen in this century easily, and one I think people still aren't aware of it, that we're, as you said earlier, we're preaching to the choir, and the mainstream media, unless there's a big show like you're saying, a big war or whatever, nothing gets mentioned, and when it does, it's got an inherent bias. But to me, it's just unbelievable that this is allowed. This is still allowed to go on. Even to the point that when the IOF snipers are firing bullets, they're even using explosive bullets. They've even said that they will if it was. I read a quote from the defense for the Israeli occupation forces, and they said they were going, if the marches continued, they would use disproportionate force. Where is the hue and cry? Where is it? That's what I can't fathom. I just cannot get my head.
Can I just come in there?
Yes, certainly.
Yes.
Okay. Just for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Ibrahim Sheikh from South Africa. And there's a few things that I just want to agree and disagree with listening to the discussions. The one thing that I want to disagree on is that the only tool the Israelis have is their army, their weapons, as a tool. If you look at this from a global perspective, what they also have on their side, apart from financing from the West, they also have the media under control, that be BBC, CNN, even Al Jazeera. You'd never find these media there, and we know why, but we'd never find them talk about this. So Israel, I disagree on one thing, that Israel only has the army. I think Israel has the media on the side, they have the financing, which enables them to give or to have the advantage that they have in the current situation. I just wanted to comment on that. But coming back more to the point of Palestine, and I think what I want to just discuss for a while is what is the action and what is the way forward. I hinted on the issue of two-state solution versus one-state solution. And I hear the discussions, I hear the talks of the throwing stones versus explosive bullets. Where's the human cry? I hear all of this. But again, it's nothing that is any different that in the last 70 years. The weaponry may have been changed, the tactics may have been changed, but nothing's changed. The land grab continues. It's the biggest prison on earth. People are dying. Nothing's changed since 1949, when these imaginary borders were drawn up. Now, I'd like to discuss the problem, and I've got no problems discussing the problem. There is a place in this entire solution for discussion, but I also believe that discussion should result in action, and this is where I'd like to come in. Discussed BDS. BDS is a powerful tool. Marching and protesting in Gaza and in all the different countries is important. But is it working? I don't really think so. I just want to touch on that again. So what do I think is going to work? What about changing our tactics ever slightly? I mean, I've been in so many marches. I've organized marches. And, you know, what we normally do is we copy what we see in media. Our banners, we'll put the words up there, free, free Palestine. And when you're in this march and you're walking down the street, whether it be the capital city of a country or whether it's in Gaza, you somehow feel that the whole world is watching you. But CNN and BBC and the intelligence services that are watching you are deliberately not broadcasting this thing. So now we enter the age of social media. Through social media, we now have more of our activities. But again, I come in and I ask you, how effective is this? Yes, social media is effective in informing the average man sitting on his couch, because that's where BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera have failed. But is it effective? Can the average guy sitting on his couch do anything except for transmit that to his friends, whether it be 20 times or 100 times a day, and have another 100 people sitting on the couch transmitting to another 100 and so on? Why I'm asking this, and I'm being positive by actually looking at this early on said, is why don't we actually engage with government? What if our banner on the streets had to say, for example, South Africa must downgrade its embassy? Now it's people on the street, whether it's 10 people or 20 people or 200 people, now bringing the struggle to the government of the country and asking the country and the government, or engaging with government to now take action. South Africa is very interested or involved. I would say certain political parties in this country are interested in downgrading the embassy. And I think we can put pressure on our governments, whether it be Germany, France, Italy, or wherever, put pressure via government to now put pressure from the international scene. When South Africa was suffering from apartheid before 1994's liberation, It was the governments that put diplomatic pressure on South Africa through various forms of sanctions, etc., that eventually brought South Africa to the point of turning the leaf over. Now, if we had to imitate how the South African government was brought down to its knees, we could possibly try and engage in those tactics and ask our relevant governments, Germany, Italy, France, Denmark, wherever, via government to now apply pressure. Let us write letters to our ministers in parliament and request or demand, rather, the downgrading of embassies in Israel/Palestine. We have, for example, the other end of the coin, which is Donald Trump moving embassies around, giving power and might to their cause. So we should counter this by downgrading embassies and having nothing to do with them from a diplomatic point of view. Citizens of a country have more of a chance to have effect, and we're not talking about effect in terms of actually having effect through government, than to sit on a couch and transmit a well-written paper 20 times or 100 times. I'm going to be honest with you. If I received a paper written by Wafa or my esteemed colleagues here with you guys, I will agree with everything, and I'll probably go onto the street tomorrow and march, and I will march and I will do the march. But I will transmit that to 100 of my friends. And trust me, only 3 or 4 of them are joining me on the street tomorrow. They've read it, they agree with it, they've seen it, and they've seen the atrocities, and they've seen the pictures. And the other thing about social media, let's understand something about social media and its effects in terms of desensitizing the general population. You know, when I was a young activist at the age of 19, and the very first time I saw a man carrying a dead child in a war-torn country, whether it was Bosnia or whatever, that picture really struck home. It really affected me. But the more pictures came in and more pictures came in, and eventually now when you're looking at a child, I've been desensitized. It's like, okay, here's another one. And to a certain degree, social media has done that to me, and I'm concerned. And maybe somebody can tell me how to overcome this. I'm concerned about how these pictures and the repeated bombarding of these pictures out there in the world, are they actually serving the purpose of advising and educating people, or over a long time period, are we going to find people after 10 years saying, this is just another picture out of Gaza? You know, it's normal. We always see pictures like this, and they don't even look at it anymore. So there's a couple of things I've been listening to this discussion, and forgive me for putting it out there, but I find I'm not the kind of person to really talk about the problem. We all here, and the fact that we are in this discussion group in the first place is because one thing is clear. We know what the problem is. What I'd like to discuss is what is the solution. Putting out 1 million pictures out there of a dead child and a father being shot through the head, is that really going to advance our cause? Or is it going to desensitize people in the next 10 years? And I'd also like to put out there, in summary again, shouldn't we engage in government? Shouldn't we change the banners on our protests to put pressure on our governments to bring about the changes we need? And I think when we adopt these changes, maybe we can have change, because I don't see change. I see protests, I see lots of happening, I see social media, but I don't see change. I see more land grab, more debts, more advanced weaponry being given, more money being given on that end, embassies being promoted. But I just want to put out that and just see what the group feels about what I'm saying.
But those things, the things that you mentioned, are not the results of failings of social media. They're the results of policies of failed governments, like my own in the United States, like the Israeli government, like the Saudi government, like many others. Those, if I'm going to post a picture of a dead baby, which I would do from time to time, that dead baby is also a name. That dead baby is also more than just a picture. And I agree with you about the desensitization, but we're not even at the point where people have the information that they need to do what they need to to do with their governments, we're still at the point of misinformation, because most of the information is coming in from Israelis or from the United States and its own social media apparatus, or from the Russians or whatever it might be. There's plenty of people that are throwing information out. So the information itself is not the solution, but I think that information is necessary along with action, because if there's no body providing that information except social media, there's no reason why I'm going to go to there's plenty of reasons for me to go to my congressman and for me to stand up and for me to do a lot of things which put me in jeopardy. However, I do them, but it's not enough for someone else to know nothing about the situation. So when anyone criticizes social media, it's not because I'm that attached to it. I just know that it's a needed aspect of this whole battle on a continuous basis, because there's no other place for the information to be made public. And unfortunately, it's only the start. But if we may talk about solutions, but we're not at the point where there's enough support for those solutions to make them happen. That's the problem. It's going to be solved, from my point of view. It's going to be solved eventually by some old men sitting in a room somewhere, or maybe a few young men among them who are going to make decisions about what happens next. And that's the way it's always going to be, no matter what we do on social media, and no matter how many marches, and no matter how many conversations we have with our senators. Something's going to happen because somebody got something from somebody else behind closed doors, and they all kind of agreed that that's the least damage we can do to ourselves, and we'll make these decisions. But in the meantime, to put that kind of pressure on them to do that, there's got to be an informed public. It doesn't have to be a fully informed public. It can be 10, 15% of the public. But if you ask people in the United States, and I live in the United States, what's really going on in Gaza, even the activists don't have a clue. I'm going to repeat that. Even some of the activists don't have a clue. That doesn't mean that all activists don't have a clue, but when someone who is a very premier activist comes to me and says, I really hate, when you were in Gaza, weren't you afraid to be in the streets because the Israelis would shoot you because of the Israeli soldiers on the street? Now, that indicated a level of lack of knowledge, because anyone who's been there knows that there is no Israeli soldiers on the streets of Gaza unless they're hiding in uniform somewhere. But there's a lot of, I'm using an extreme example, but there's a lot of misinformation. There are a lot of people that think that everyone in Gaza is poor. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people that think that all leaders in Gaza are rich. But these are among our activists. So there is a reason for this educational process which goes on every single day, because misinformation is also being poured into the media. Now, that information that we share day to day on social media is not the solution to the problem, but it is critical. It is critical to the ultimate solution, I believe. And even the solution ain't going to be what we want. It's going to be what some old man wants. It's going to be what Abbas and Netanyahu and a few people in the United States State Department want. We know this. When I was in Gaza, and when I was going to stay there during the war, I was there during the war, I got calls from the State Department. Now, the State Department was supporting Israel. But when I got calls from the State Department, they said, listen, would you report on war crimes to us here in the State Department? Now, this was the United States government telling me to report on Israel war crimes when they were supporting Israel's attack on Gaza. So, a lot of this stuff is going to happen way beyond Wafa and me and Michael and all of us here on the call. It's going to happen behind closed doors somewhere, the best we can to make it happen the way we want it to happen. Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
I agree with what you are saying, and thank you for your response. But I just want to clarify that I'm not. Media should not be a part of the solution. I was very clear on what I'm saying. I was saying that I find BDS an effective tool. I find marching effective tool. I find social media a very effective tool to the degree that it would be the only avenue of information that the mainstream public would have access, as I mentioned, because BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera have now locked out that information. So don't get me wrong, is that BDS, marching, and social media in the last 70 years has done what for us? And if you look at the answer is yes, we may have increased awareness. Yes, we boycotted products and we've made certain companies feel the pinch. And yes, we've been on the streets in the scorching cuts out. But has this been effective? Now, I'm not saying effective in a sense that did it bring the war to an end. No. If anything, there's been more and more aggression, more killings, and this is not changing. What I am saying is that if we look at a copy and paste scenario, what the country to its knees in South Africa when it was under apartheid control. I bring the question to this point, which nobody's commenting on for some reason, because I think the focus is on Gaza and Palestine. But from a solution point of view, we've got to look at a simple strategy on how many apartheid states has the world been dealing with, and it's only been dealing with two, one being South Africa and one being the current situation we're dealing with now in Palestine. So what were the tools that were effective on the apartheid system in South Africa? We should look hard into that. I keep mentioning South Africa, not because I'm South African, but we know what was apartheid. Apartheid's all about atrocities of apartheid. We felt it here. We've seen it. Our rivers were filled with blood. I mean, our people were exploited. Our people are still being exploited economically. Apartheid doesn't disappear the day you have a one-day solution and a referendum or some sort of voting. Trust me, 24 years later in this country, we still have atrocities, but that's not up for discussion. The only reason I bring South Africa into perspective, whatever international pressure was put on South Africa in 1994, I believe is the way that Italy, France, Germany, on the issue of the outstanding state number 194 in the United Nations, that sitting in some file now, look at the various other international issues and who I am saying, and this is where the difference is coming in. What I'm saying is the difference is on who should be putting pressure on government. We sit on our couches sending social media to our friends, but shouldn't we sending this to the senators? Shouldn't we sending this to the ministers of parliament? Shouldn't we be putting pressure on our governments, whether it's Italy, France, Germany, America, South Africa? Shouldn't governments now be pushed to forward our agenda as civilians of the world, as an international citizen? My government should be pushed, and I've been pushing my government to downscale its embassy or to remove the embassy in totality. When the recent Gaza attacks took place, the African National Congress in South Africa immediately downgraded the embassy, and there was action. Now, if we have a similar kind of action from other countries, it just makes a bigger difference, because now we have governments that are taking action, and people through government action can see, okay, well, if the government's doing something, this must be a serious issue, because at the moment people are just not taking it seriously enough, or either that or they've been, as I pointed out, desensitized. It's that they've been so used after 70 years of seeing what comes out of Gaza and Palestine. It's like, it's another picture, you know. But the one point that I agree with on, I didn't get your name there, is that the continuous information download to the citizens of the world is important, because every 20 years there's another generation, and that new generation comes in blank. It comes in with only what they have in terms of CNN, BBC, and all the other media channels. They haven't even heard of things like electronic intifada, blah, blah, blah. So, yes, the continuous download of information is important. But my point here and my purpose tonight is to encourage all group members here who's participating and whoever's listening on Facebook and whatever to engage government, to get off the chair and say, let me take this document written by Wafa or whoever and send it to somebody in government in my country and let those ministers, those politicians, whether it be a councillor in your area, read. Let's advise them, because as you said, activists themselves don't know what's going on. These politicians and government officials, trust me, they have no idea as well. They just know Palestine to be some war-torn country. Let us engage in government. That's what I'm saying.
But the point is that after 70 years, the governments are not doing anything about it. At least those on social something about it.
Well, when you mean doing something about it, are you judging that by action or are you judging that by
Obviously
results?
by action. By action. Because, okay, for you're an older generation, times have changed from the day you protested for South African apartheid, and times have changed now, where the whole landscape is completely different. Everybody's not only getting the news from TV. Social media plays a very important role in that.
No, but you're missing the point again, and I want to be very clear on this, is that I'm not dismissing social media. I mean, I'm on the phone with you right now using saying how much of the social media is going to the government, and nobody seems to understand that point, that we need to push the letters written by Wafa, the social media, the Facebook post, the WhatsApp post to government officials. Where is it? I've yet to see one protest with a banner written, South Africa, downgrade your embassy to Israel. No, I see banners saying free Palestine, but I don't see a banner putting pressure on a government. I don't see Italy, Germany, or France.
I'm yet to see a politician that's not corrupt.
Leila, I'm not going to even entertain that point of view right now, because number one is it's off the agenda and it's not on the agenda. A politician being corrupt is not on the agenda. I am asking you from a point of view, why are we not engaging government? Show me where the action is in government. And again, and I'm saying it very clearly, I'm not dismissing BDS, I'm not dismissing social media, and I'm not dismissing marching on the streets. What I'm asking is, where is the march on the streets forcing government to take action? And why are we ignoring the fact that the Americans and the British put pressure on the South African government in 1994? And when that happened, nobody sat back and said, oh, but we can't expect our government to do anything because government has politicians and politicians are corrupted. That topic wasn't even discussed because America and Britain put pressure on South Africa to remove apartheid. And that's a fact.
I totally agree, with the view, Brother Ibrahim, but, we believe that the social media is one mean, to our land. And we believe also in the demonstrations, outside Palestine. And I'm sure that if everybody, around the world, if they are just go in the streets and then demonstrate against their government, against arming Israel, and they can protest or ask their government to stop arming Israel, to stop fund Israel with weapons, then I'm sure that from tomorrow Palestine is going to be free. If this is go for the people just go in the street and then, speak up and then ask force their governments, to act towards what is happening to the Palestinians. And I'm sure, I just for me, I just believe that the social media maybe it's the one that can, rouse the people around the world. They can just, push them to act in the ground, like maybe to demonstrate, to hold protest, to hold any actions, against the policy of their government. So, of course, I agree with you that we have like not only the social media the social media is just one mean, and we can just use other means, but for us Palestinians, why we do believe in social media, because we feel that the social media is the only thing that we can, express our own experience. We can talk about it. Yeah, sometimes we got blocked by Facebook, and we got, we get so many reports from others, because we are just speaking for our rights, yeah. And sometimes the Facebook policy, just deleted anything or blocked anybody who they feel that he or she is pro-Palestinians or even Palestinians. So they have like, brutal policy against the Palestinians and the pro-Palestinian activists. So yeah, we believe in that. The point is, because they believe that the social media can, force the people to act on the ground. So that's why they are just acting like this, blocking the acts, blocking the people, the activists. So because they believe that these social media can, just be the first, to enlighten the people around the world about, what is happening exactly in Palestine, because we believe that they just control the mainstream media, and just their propaganda that is prevalent in the Western, the media or the mainstream media. Social media as opinions, because this is the only thing that we can use, and for the outside also they can go into the street, and they can protest, and they can ask their government, they deliver, they can wrote things to, wrote like a petition for their government, for the ministries, for the foreign maybe minister, or for the embassies or anything, just to enlighten them of what the Palestinians have subjected every single day from the Israeli occupation forces. And then when the people outside, when they are enlightened by the truth, then for sure nobody just to see anybody live in a subject in unjust situation. So we just believe in the people, and we believe in the social media, that it's like the one that arouse the thing, in the people. So this is my point of view.
Well, thank you for that. And I just want to reiterate before the next person comes in, justifying and explaining the need of social media in this war. Again, and this must be like the 7th time I'm saying this, I am not against social media. In fact, let me now go and say social media started the Arab Spring. Social media is, again, the only alternative to the big media houses that we have. And Wafa, you're absolutely correct in what you are saying, that social media is the only way the Palestinians can use as an avenue to bring the information, the correct information, and the counter propaganda out into the real world. And that is an absolutely useful tool, and we should continue with that. And I am saying, and thank you again, Wafa, for acknowledging it, that this social media, these letters, this information, the real information, needs to now be channeled to the government, to, as you said, the embassies. And this is my point that I'm making as a suggestion, as a positive suggestion in this group, in this discussion. And I don't like the feeling that I'm getting that I'm challenging social media. I'm not. I'm merely saying that I think we should channel the social media to government officials to bring the changes. And I'm not going to entertain whether government officials are corrupt or not. I'm saying that government needs to be put under pressure. From where I'm sitting, my government needs to take action as an ex-apartheid state, number one, but even as a citizen of the world, as a member of the United Nations, it needs to take action against that. And I, as a citizen of this country, will do what I can to put pressure. And the next time I organize a march for Palestine, I assure you, I'm not going to have the words free Palestine on it. I'm going to change my tactics. And the tactic that I'm going to now use is South Africa, downgrade your embassy. And this is the message. My message, battle is now being taken to the streets to put pressure on my government, to put pressure internationally on what's going on. And I think for me personally, whether you guys want to accept this or not, this could bring a significant change. This could now pull the file up on State 194 in the United Nations. That file is collecting dust. This international pressure is important. And again, guys, I'm not outruling social media. Social media is what we need to inform these politicians in the first place, because I can't phone my member of parliament and tell him turn on the TV, and then he's looking at mainstream BBC, and then he comes back to me and he says, Sheikh, but you know what? These guys are firing the rockets first, and we can't support this. And then he's misled by mainstream media. I need social media. I need the pictures. I need the letters and the documents written by Denny, by Wafa, and all the people sitting there. I need that. But this is what we need to channel to government. And my point again, and I'll give somebody else an opportunity to talk now, is that we should channel this to government. And I've been listening to lots of discussions on what the problem is, and I'm glad we moved on to actioning what action we're going to take. And I propose that one of the actions that we should take is moving social media to government, and I hope we can adopt that.
Yeah, but like real quick, like the middle way, like I think what both of you actually can agree on is that instead of using social media to like inform the general public about all these things which are happening, you can actually I agree with you, Ibrahim, that you can actually use the social media to rally all these people to actually confront their governments with this.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think what I was saying before, when I say preaching to the choir, I wasn't really specific in what the alternative was, but one of those alternatives is preaching to our government. So we're not really that far apart. I was somewhat strong in my support of social media just because of the fact that it frequently gets thrown under the bus. But I was not saying that that's the only solution. I think one of the challenges we have is that Ibrahim is doing some wonderful work where he is, and Wafa is doing some wonderful work where she is, and I think I'm doing some good work where I am. But what we lack, and we're never going to achieve it completely, is more cohesive efforts. And this conversation is not. There's 5 or 6 of us in the conversation. We're only part of a much larger conversation that needs to take place. There are really massive differences in the pro-Palestinian community in terms of approach, whether it be 1 state or 2 state or 17 state, whatever. That is a major issue. There's still a great deal of lack of unity in the community. And so rather than just being critical and saying there's no unity, part of the solution is to encourage unity, encourage dialogue. This is only one of hundreds of dialogues that need to take place. Now, I've been in these dialogues before. I was within the last 2 years, I've been part of a group that tried to organize an ability to do more, to go bring it to the next level. And there were some really superb people in this group. Unfortunately, there were no Palestinians, which was a big problem. And the group went nowhere. But the group of maybe 50 people communicating with each other realized that they did not have a uniformity of purpose. So there's a lot of things that need to go on besides just social media. And I believe that social media needs to go to social media 2.0 or 3.0 as far as the effort is concerned. Sharing a picture of a kid that got killed today, it doesn't solve the problem. Sharing that picture with the choir is a good thing. We need to know, but it doesn't solve the problem. We need to move outside of the structure of the choir, and I'm serious about that. And so when you talk about moving toward the governments and really demanding of our governments things, that I can totally agree. I don't have the ability to do some things beyond social media in some cases, and when I do them. But I'm using my tool. There are many other tools, and I think Wafa said the same thing. So we're not against suggesting, and I know you're not against what we're suggesting. And actually, we probably don't even know the full extent of what any of us are suggesting. But what I'm suggesting is moving beyond the limited scope that social media has been. It wasn't a perfect platform in the first place. It's growing. And I can see us using that to not only inform, but to engage the public. I mean, it's not enough. If I'm going to a 104 character tweet out there that doesn't have a good picture, and I don't mean of a dead baby, I mean something that's informative. And I'm not, those dead babies really impact me personally, to be really honest with you. They impact me a lot because I saw a fucking lot of dead babies, excuse my French, in Gaza.
Yeah.
And Wafa has seen her share of fucking dead babies. They were horrible. Those images I have in my nightmares. I don't suffer.
Because then I was following 2008 war on Gaza, and you were there as it was happening.
I was not there for 2008. I was
there. Was it
2014.
2000?
2014.
Oh, okay.
I was there,
okay.
And I was involved in 2012, but 2014, I spent a lot of time at Al Shifa Hospital, and I'll tell you, sitting next to a dead child changes you. As much as people don't want to see the dead children, and although it can be desensitizing, because even people in Gaza have to be desensitized after a while in order to survive, seeing this day after day after day. You have to be sensitized a little bit. So, but my approach to social media is not sharing their pictures only, nor is it just sharing a couple of sentences. Today there was a Twitter storm which I participated in, and I'm going to be critical of that Twitter storm. There were 200 tweets that were prepared for that Twitter storm. 200 text tweets. No photographs, and 200 tweets being shared by 5 or 6 people and it's not going to do a damn thing. So,
no, it's not. It needs a lot more people.
So I'm going to be critical of that, not because I want to be critical of that effort, because it was organized by someone in Gaza and they're trying to do a good thing. But they, in fact, just as I need to be educated how to do it more powerfully and to reach the right people, they need to also be helped. They need to also be helped. And if they had done 10 good tweets today, just 10, and they were shared by 1,000 people because that was organized in advance, well in advance, that would have some impact. If it was directed at our legislatures in the United States, who are not reading our tweets, to be honest with you, but they are looking for votes. And we need to go after their constituencies. We need to go after, there's a lot of things we're not doing. So it's a lot more, where it's time to move. I'm sorry to, I'll stop my sentence with this next 15 to 20 words. We need to move to the next level of social media if we're going to do some things to impact the governments. The United States, it's critical to address them. The congressmen and senators who may never change their opinion, but it's really critical. But there's very few people that are doing that. A few letters, a few phone calls are not going to do it. You need thousands. And that can be orchestrated using social media. Because social media is an orchestrator. It's not the end result.
Yeah.
Not the end result.
We can actually help with these tweet storms if we all work together on that. I mean, we do have a lot of people who can do that.
This was only announced 2 days ago. I got the tweets today. There were 200 of them. And they did a lot of work. But I knew right away, as soon as I saw it, that it wasn't going to do what they wanted it to do. I still participated until I joined this phone call. And I'm not in Gaza, so it's not that I can do, and I'm not but among all of us, there's a lot of knowledge. We just need to be sharing it a lot more. And that's why I went to Gaza, and that's why I continue to work with Wafa, because I can learn from Wafa. Wafa can learn from me. And we can learn from many other people. Well, for instance, Peter Cohen, who is not on this phone call, a Jewish man who's one of the really heavy-duty supporters of the Palestinian cause. He's a brilliant man. We rarely use him. Some people in the community won't use him at all because he's Jewish, unfortunately. But he's brilliant. He's brilliant. I listen. He gives me advice every single day. If there's some things that I've done on social media that are stronger than others, it's because Peter has advised me. Peter was advising the people with the Great Return March, as I was too, if I could, in my own little ways. I'm an old man. What do I know? But we try to help. But it's that communication between all these people that can really make a difference. Not meetings, not 100 meetings, although meetings are critical to communicate. But we need to bring it to 3.0 or 4.0 or whatever it might be, because right now it's still on social media, Facebook, and Facebook is like worthless these days.
Yeah, it doesn't get the reach you want to have on social media.
Not like it was 2 or 3 years ago, unfortunately.
No.
Now, it's not worthless. I don't want to say that, because it's a great educational tool. I went overboard when I said worthless. And forgive me, I'm not all that smart. But you're right, Twitter's where it's at. Instagram is where it's at these days.
Yeah, it's true. But I do want to quickly follow up on what Ibrahim said, and that is like there are some simple things to actually change things, and that is if you organize like an event on Facebook or whatever, that instead of just like marching to like the center square of your town to inform the public, you can actually start marching directly to the government buildings, right?
That's correct. That's right.
It's a small change, just a location change in an event to confront the government each time, and like and then change your banners to like the specific things aimed at the current governments. And I don't know, it's maybe just an idea, but I think that is kind of like what Ibrahim was also pointing at. Like,
and I think he's smart. I think he's really smart with the things he's suggesting. I really do. I don't think we can solve them here, but I agree with you. I agree. Even in Gaza, I don't know if anyone has realized this. The things are changing in Gaza because of the march.
Yeah, I believe it.
And I'm not going to ask Waf to comment on that. I'm going to leave her out of this comment. But Pandora's box has been opened in Gaza. And things will never be the same in Gaza again. Now, things may not happen quickly, but things may... There's been an opening of the public ability to communicate and things like that, which more than ever before. And there are more activists in Gaza than ever before. And there are more people. There are people questioning the government, and I don't suggest that that's an easy thing to do in many Middle Eastern countries. Although, as I say, the box has been opened, so there are aspects of this where changes will take place because of changes taking place in Gaza and the government as well, and in the West and in the West Bank, and even in Israel. Right now, WAFA is doing some significant work with Israelis who are protesting. It's very small right now.
Yeah.
But with a little bit of push from the international community, that could become huge.
Mm-hmm.
I think what they're doing is one of the greatest. I think it's like Great Return March 2.0. It's another level of the Great Return March. Now, it's not getting a lot of attention quite yet because it's still small, and that's a good thing when you first get started.
Actually, about those guys, it is a group of Jewish and international, and they are just protesting in solidarity with the Great Return March, and they are just also calling for our right to return to our homeland. And of course, we support them, and now they are just a few, but hopefully soon they will be like thousands. The thing is, it's good.
Inshallah.
Because they believe that their government and they just don't do very well for the people, for the Palestinians, and even the Israelis themselves. Those activists, they subjected to brutality. They subjected to arrest by the Israeli forces. And so they don't want anybody to live in a decent life, especially the Palestinians, only them, So, and I hope that the Great Return March can achieve the goal very soon, because the people here are just, they just got tired of being refugees for more than 70 years until now, and being besieged for more than 11 years so far. So I hope everything is gonna be, soon, and everybody get his right very soon. Hopefully, by your effort, guys. Hopefully, inshallah.
Inshallah. I think maybe I think this conversation was good today, and I'm really grateful that I was invited to participate, because I've even though I've talked, I've also listened. There's a lot that we can learn from each other when we're not just separate voices. There's a lot we can learn from each other. And I learned from Ibrahim today. I didn't learn enough that I can completely change my methodology. put questions in my head about what can I do to achieve the kinds of things that Abraham said. so I was listening. I was listening. And I'm not critical. I'm not critical of anything he said at all.
What I'm saying, and I hear what you're saying, Denny, that you've been listening, and of to what I suggested. But let me just say something that, and again, it's just a personal input, and I think this is what I'd like to contribute. And you notice the word I use is contribute towards a solution. What I'd like to contribute in terms of what Jenny said now, on whether what I'm asking for is achievable or not. Here's another out-of-the-box solution that I've been thinking about. You could have 1,000 people march in a town called Pietermaritzburg, which none of you guys have heard of, right? But it's a capital city of a province in South Africa, right? It's a capital city. Now, 1,000 people walk down there, free Palestine, but no effect. The media doesn't cover it. Nobody doesn't. It's not even one line on CNN that this is what happened regarding Palestine. So what I'm thinking is, I've got a group of people that I'm talking to here right now. I see there's a guy from America. I see we have Wafa from Gaza. I'm from South Africa. Leila's from South Africa. I'm not sure how many other people, Italy, France, Germany. I'd like to see participation from them, but maybe you guys know people. What I'm saying, and I'm putting the solution forward because, as I mentioned earlier on, I'm not a talk shop guy. I hate talk shops. Yes, there's room for discussion, but I'm an action guy. I've been an activist for a very long time now, and when I deal with a problem, I put solutions onto the table. Solution one that I propose is that immediately amongst the group of us, let us create a little group. We met here not by chance, we've been invited, and I think there's a greater force at play. If we believe in this, then let us exchange details, let us keep in contact. Solution number one. And then why I propose this is because it's a form of social media. And if social media is really going to be effective in uniting the people, then let us lead the world into uniting via social media by uniting ourselves in the first place, right? So I will give you my email address later and we can speak via email and keep in contact. And why this is important to me, not because I want another group and another Palestinian group. No, this is important to me because it leads to the second solution that I propose. I would rather have 10 people, 10 in New York, 10 in Italy, 10 in France, 10 in Germany, 10 in London, 10 in South Africa, 50 people in the world, or 50 people in the G7 countries. Let's do that. Let the media change to G7 supports Palestine, because we know they don't. But let us counter. You know, and I'm thinking aloud as I speak. And you know, you guys might listen to me and think, okay, is this going to be achievable? Yes, it's achievable. Denny, in America, you need 10 people. I'm not sure what city you're from. It doesn't matter. But you could be in Ontario, Canada, wherever, Las Vegas. It doesn't matter. Let us create headlines that are different. As you said, and I've been listening very carefully, you talk about 2.0, 3.0. Let's up our game. We cannot continue the old methodology of protesting, the old methodology of doing what we do and expect the same results. Because let's look at the results. And this is how I judge what we do. I judge it by the results. I don't judge by the effort we put in. It's commendable, highly commendable that there's effort. There's effort by me, there's effort by everybody in this group. The fact that we're here for the last 2 hours, that effort may be accepted, you know, but what I'm saying is, what are the results? I'd like to take away from this conversation tonight the result that I've met 3 or 4 other people worldwide that I will now team up with in future ventures. So that's a positive for me. This is not a discussion group. This has resulted in action. And the second thing I'd like to take away is that I made it very clear with the people in this group that I'm an action man. So yes, I look forward to the next discussion, but let us now take action. If there's a march happening in Gaza next week, Friday, for a specific cause, whether it's a return to homeland, whether it was regarding a child that was shot, whether it's a disabled the person let us know. Let the guy in America, let the guy in South Africa know. And then in our communities, we will now take 10 people, march to the building around the corner with our little placards and say, return to the homeland. And let this now be an international effort. Let us change the headlines to South Africa, Gaza, New York, now against the occupation of Israel. Let us put those headlines out there. Let us think out of the box. Let's take this to the different level. And I'm proposing on this group that, number one, we unite and we exchange details. And number two, through the exchanging of those details, we now keep in contact on what each one of us are doing in our various cities and countries, whether I'm taking on government in South Africa, whether you're doing a paper in Palestine, whether you're doing a 100-letter tweet in Danny's doing 100. Let us exchange. I've got a Twitter account. I got email. I've got distribution. I've got Facebook. We can exchange information. Let us lead by uniting ourselves here, and then taking this unity that we expect to be united through social media to the people, and then unite the people. And the other point I want to make, just before I forget, is that the issue of not having unity is a very valid point that Denny has raised. And this is a very, very sad reality of the issue. When we sit in our comfortable homes, and I'm talking for myself here and for others, in comfortable homes and not in the war-stricken Gaza itself, where you're dodging missiles, literally. We have this tendency to say, okay, I have an idea and it has to be my idea, and if it's not my idea, then I've got to shoot down Denny's idea. No. Through my entire course today, I've never once dismissed BDS taking action on the streets, social media. What I've done is I've applauded and given due credit where each one of those things were affected, but I've also put on the table the effects of taking government on. And we need to get into this mindset and the mind frame of understanding that we need to stop shooting down other people's ideas because it's somebody else's idea. We may have the luxury and comfort in our cozy homes in the various parts of the world to discuss what idea works, but the people in Gaza don't have that. They want action, whether it's BDS, whether it's a street march, whether it's a paper written by somebody, or whether it's government engagement, or whether it's G7 responding to the Palestinian issue, whether it's reviving the file of 194 in the United Nations. People in Gaza are looking for a solution. So let us all unite, and if today it's my idea, let us support my idea, and tomorrow if it's Denny's idea, let's support each other, bring the unity amongst ourselves, and take that unity to wherever we go in the world.
Okay, well, that's a very clear message. I think point one, we should form a group right after this show, and we should all stay in touch. And second, I am from the Netherlands, where there is the UN court, and the streamer here, Kevin, with the blue face, is from Belgium, and that is in Brussels, where the European Parliament is. So we are from kind of like the heart of Europe, and if we create this group, maybe we can help each other to organize some serious direct action towards the UN court in The Hague in my country, and towards the European Parliament as well. It seems.
Yes, it would be wonderful.
Yeah, the European Parliament can be a good idea, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, all these countries they all want a European government these days, so we can just do a march and direct action against this European Parliament.
Yeah. That's where it's based, you know. That's where they'll control everything, you know. In Europe, it's a perfect idea for go out to there and protest.
Well, yeah, just make these politicians know what it's about, right? I mean, when you look around you already see that the majority of the public is behind this cause. They are all aware of what is going on, but the politicians now need to be confronted. So yeah. We should do that. We should create a group together with the people who were on at least on this show tonight, and others around us.
All right. So will you share the information on the group via text?
Yes, I can set it up if you'd like.
No, I'm not
all
sure.
share our-
I'm not too
can all
comfortable on putting it out on Facebook, out here in public, and I don't want to mention the details right now. I think it's safer
No, we have it
amongst
in,
ourselves. Yeah.
No,
Yeah, we have it in
yeah.
the Hangouts chat. The Hangouts chat. We're all in that little Hangouts chat, and we can
Right.
Yeah, we
share
can
it with
just
each other.
link them. Yeah.
Okay, so good to know. Netherlands is there, Belgium is there. Good to know you guys are central, and it's good to know that we agree on at least attempting to do something. And I'd like the headlines that come out of the YouTube videos when we do these things to be a united front. I'd like to, on my next march, inform the guys in Belgium, Netherlands, and America that this is what I'm doing, and then we can coordinate and synchronize these things. So when things start to get synchronized, when things start to coordinate themselves at an international level on the way that I'm proposing to that we do, then I think we're going to sink a new kind of dimension into the war on Israel. It's not something they expected. They used to in the last 7 years of having even 1,000 people protest, and they just have learned now to ignore it, and it just goes right over the head. So I'm proposing that we now coordinate. We come up with frontier approaches and not a single approach. It shouldn't just be South Africa requesting the removal or the downgrade of the embassy. Let's get Belgium to step in. Let's get whoever needs to step in. And you guys might think that governments are not. You call them the choir. Yes, they are the choir. But where's that going to get us? Where's that attitude going to get us? If we just sit and say, no, government's not going to listen and don't attempt to tackle government on these issues, then we've lost, because there's only so much you can do as a civilian, as a citizen, other than go to Gaza and take up arms yourself. All you're left with is social media. And again, I'm not running social media down. Let's use social media to engage in government. Yeah. Let's unite our cause here. Let's take on these governments and put pressure. I've been putting pressure on the African National Congress. The African National Congress is easy. They don't need convincing. Why? Not because they don't know, or not because they know what's going on in Gaza. It was easy to speak to the African National Congress because the African National Congress, the ruling party in South Africa, knows what apartheid is. You don't need to walk into Parliament here in South Africa and convince them of what apartheid is. They know apartheid. Our rivers were filled with blood 300 years ago when our country was occupied. We know all about it. So from a South African point of view, it's easier from us. And South Africa is part of the United Nations, and South Africa has diplomatic relationships with the countries, and these countries need to unite with one message. I will push for my government, now that I know I have people from Netherlands and Belgium that I will push for my government, people that I know within Parliament, to establish diplomatic communication with Belgium and Netherlands, and see if we can make inroads into those countries.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, of course. And that is how it is. And the media here in these areas, I'm not sure if it's the same in there, but they are either they are to trends, and they're very vulnerable to the personas, like the personal reputation of these politicians. There are politicians that they are behind these crimes against the Palestinian people because they hide political parties. But if you would name the people who support these things, and you name the people who are against these crimes, who are freedom for Palestinian people, then you will actually make a public change. You will actually them into thinking again about what they're doing. That is really how it. We live in like very small countries, and especially like Belgium and Netherlands. Here, we are very small countries, very media oriented. And,
we are very open about our media. It's different than other countries, and certainly like United States, but like here in Belgium and Netherlands, we are very open in our media. It's not like other countries. Eventually, the government gonna need to listen to us, to everyone, because what happened in the world, and if we all can, work a little bit together and organize something, and we can bring
And we
bring
do,
a big change.
yeah, and we do actually have support from some political, actually politicians marching also
Yeah.
for free Palestine. They also did this in the past, so we do have some pull, but yeah, we will have to do this together.
Yeah. We unite. We will be stronger.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you for you guys agreeing and the support. What I'd now like to do is get in this platform on other things that we could do. Maybe I could use some of these ideas in my campaigns as I take the Palestinian struggle forward here in my country. I don't want this conversation to be dominated by the fact that we're discussing government and should we or shouldn't. I think we come to a consensus and we're in agreement that social media will play a big role in informing government, but we should be now tackling government as an different and as an alternative approach. And more importantly, this approach is something that the Israelis are not going to expect. And in a war, when you send something through that's not expected, they're not ready for it, you have a greater chance of succeeding. If when we exchange information later on, I will then be requesting from the members here information from the parliamentarians in Belgium and Netherlands and America. And when I write a letter to the government in South Africa, I will actually then copy the politicians in those countries, and that will bring a new dimension into it, because South Africa has a very exclusive place in the world in the sense of it being an apartheid state. We all know the name Mandela. We all know what happened in 1994. So when a letter comes through from South Africa to another country, big or small, they pay attention, and we can put pressure even from where I'm sitting in my lounge on other governments as well, requesting them to unite as a force. And the letter might go in the bin, yes, but it's an effort that I would like to put because I believe it's different. And the only reason I want to try something different, and as Danny said earlier on, is to take this game to another level. If we keep doing things the way we did previously, guys, I don't think we're getting anywhere. Gaza loses more land. There's just more and more. We've been through it, and I just think, we need to unite. We need to collaborate.
Yeah.
And I will be exchanging information. I will be setting letters now to the Belgian government as a citizen of South Africa, and I'll be copying my government in these letters. And the source of my letters, yes, it's going to be social media. It's going to be the letters and the information that comes through from WAFA and all the people that I call the desk-bound people in the struggle, and they're very key, very important to the struggle, because in this kind of struggle, like in any war, you have the people that are on the ground, the warriors, the ground soldiers that take the battle to the streets, and then you have the people that are desk-bound, and they play a vital role in terms of information, in terms of intelligence, in terms of arming the battle, the ground soldiers. And this is key again, and this is why I'm going to reiterate, I've never dismissed social media in any of my discussions. I keep a united front. Whenever there's this kind of discussion, I never run down another person's idea. I am saying I want to use the social media, the information and the papers and the data that you guys provide that are doing fantastic work. I want to use that on the ground as a warrior, as a ground force.
Mm-hmm.
I want to take the battle to the streets and let this now become a tool for me to take to the government. And when I sit in Parliament, and if ever I address Parliament, I'd like to have this information on my hand, on my fingertips. I'm not the kind of person to sit behind a desk and read and read and read and read. I'm the kind of person, however, I can read something, a 10-page document, understand it, take it forward and say, right, this has now become an actionable item, something that I could use to turn into action. And that's the way I'd like to see us as a group to come together, because in our group we have the writers, we have the philosophers, we have the thinkers, and then we have the people that are actually going to use that in a action way going forward.
Yeah, good say, yeah.
Yeah. I do have a quick comment about that. There are people in the comments saying, can we do this every week, because Palestinian activists are being censored from from Facebook and they're losing their accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Is it true that you guys are losing many accounts on
Yes.
Facebook?
Yes, definitely.
So
Yeah,
so
for me, Wafa, I got my, my first just blockade, and I don't know, they didn't even give me like any explanation why they just delete my account. Then it is another. It's okay now. I'm working on it, so I hope that. But sometimes I feel that there is not like so much interaction on the post that I'm posting. So but to some extent, I hope that this time they are not gonna like delete my other account. Yeah, but for my other friends, they just deleted for them many accounts.
Many
They
times.
just
Yes. A lot of people from Gaza have lost their accounts.
Yeah.
So should we do a next episode soon again, and then we talk about our progress with our new actions?
Sure. Can I just say that I think there's different purposes. This we may end up with a group of people that will work together, but the broadcast is another issue altogether. Unfortunately, I have to leave it because I wasn't. I didn't know until today that we'd have this broadcast and that it would last as long. I've made some commitments already that I need to fulfill in just about 10 minutes. But I would like to. I'd like to make myself available, and I certainly will say that I am available, even if I have to leave the conversation today. I would be available for any future conversations. I don't make personally business plans or whatever we might call it, action plans based on one conversation with people that I barely know. I just can't. Mm-hmm. Now, I know Wafa very, very well, and I'm not saying that I can't work with other people. I do all the time. Wafa knows that I've worked with her organization in the past, and I will work with them many times in the future. But I don't normally. Action plans don't necessarily come from one conversation, and so when someone wants to do an action and involve me, I may need a little bit more than a meeting, and especially since this was not a meeting to discuss it, this was a meeting for a broadcast, and so a lot of things we might not be able to say in a broadcast that I would be willing to say privately. Mm-hmm. I'm sure the same for Wafa, who is a very public figure in Gaza. So you don't always necessarily say everything you want to say, but you might say it in a private meeting, perhaps once you get to know the people. The other thing is that this is a Palestinian issue, and I never get involved with efforts that are not coordinated carefully with Gaza. One of the reasons that the Great Return March was so successful was that it was a Palestinian coordinated effort that we supported or didn't support from the outside. Mm-hmm. And most of the actions taking place on the outside don't even include Gaza in the planning, which is unfortunate because of the fact that we go off in another direction. So I am willing to work with anybody and definitely work with Ibrahim on his ideas, but I don't necessarily get really warm to those ideas from one conversation in the middle of a broadcast that was public.
No, I get that. I get that. That is
or even if it wasn't public, one conversation is not necessarily enough, especially when we're dealing with not visual communication over a table, body language, and all that kind of things. It takes a while to establish some level of rapport, and that rapport will lead to action, and not only promises but action, and that takes a while. I've met you guys just once before. This is the second time. And I don't know when we had our last conversation. It might have been 2 years, whatever. But Wafa and I communicate at least once a month. She's busy. It could be more frequently if she wasn't busy. We communicate. So I know her better than anyone else in this group right now. And so if Wafa said something to me during this meeting, I'd say, you know, Wafa, based on my knowledge of you and what you're recommending, that would make sense. This is what I would do, though, just to go above and beyond what you've suggested, maybe a little more planning and this kind. But we've already communicated. I've seen her face to face with her veil. but I've looked into Wafa's eyes, and I know that I can trust this lady.
Yeah.
And Wafa knows she can trust me, I think.
Yeah, of course. I trust you.
It takes a little time to do that, so.
I get that, Danny. But like the idea of Ibrahim is, of course, interesting to like work a little bit more together.
It is. It is. It may take me a while to warm. Personally, not talking for anyone else in the group. It may take me a little while to warm to a specific effort, just because I can say, yeah, I'm interested, but if I'm not really there with him, it ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, no.
Okay, well, we can make it easy.
I want to have more communication, and maybe a month from now or 2 months from now, more things would happen than they would happen after one.
Danny, whilst you can take your time to get to know me. Take all the time you want to. I'll send you all the information.
That's all. Yeah, it wasn't you personally.
No. But I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah,
but what I'm saying is, in the meantime, I would like to use the information that you have and get going on my side. In the sense of let's exchange details on the Twitter accounts. I'd like to see what information and data you have there, and
again, you
I hear what you're saying about this.
No. Again,
I hear what you're saying about. I hear what you're saying about this being a broadcast, a public broadcast, and yes, you quite. We should be very careful what we put out there.
Well, no, because I could be. I'm an extreme activist, but also I know that I have to act within the limitations that are around me. So. I may be more prone to talk about. I would talk even more specifically about the pros of the Great Return March, because I would be there on the border throwing stones myself. To be honest, okay. I would also be there in the public. I would be there in the public gatherings, but I'm not going to say that necessarily too much on. I just said it, but I wouldn't say it a lot on social media, because I would be banished by the progressive community in the United States, who I'm trying to work with. Progressive community in the United States cannot deal with the Great Return March. Most of them.
I think to a certain degree, each and every one of us, even if we are not in a progressive America, whether we're in Netherlands or even South Africa, have the same or similar problem, call it a problem or insecurity or challenge that you're mentioning. And yes, we have to be cautious. We cannot just stick our neck out there, literally.
It's just because I'm still trying to reach my hand out to people. That if I said I would throw a stone.
But at the same time, as we age, as we mature, we realize that our lives have no other. I'm 41.
I'm 3 times
almost.
So I don't want to argue with you, but you're making it more of an argument. All I'm saying is that it may take me a while to warm to you about that kind of activity, not to you personally, but to an action that may take more than 1 2-hour conversation and in a public forum.
Well, if ever you're in South Africa, let me know.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, if you're ever in Gaza again, I'll see you there too. Okay.
Sure, no problem.
Inshallah. I have to go. That was all I was really wanting to say. because I do have commitments. People are waiting to meet me. If you do continue this conversation in another broadcast or off air, whatever, I'd be really happy to be part of it. I'd be honored.
Yeah.
Well, and nice meeting all of you, but I must leave. Stay safe.
Thank you, Dini, and I would like to thank you so much for for everything you do for Palestine, and really I appreciate your effort.
Thank you for all you do for my friends in Palestine.
Yeah,
right.
Thank you. Okay, see you soon. Hopefully soon here.
Thank you guys. Thank you for including me today. I appreciate it. Bye bye.
Yeah, you are very welcome.
Thank you all, actually. Yeah, I would like to thank you on behalf of Palestinians for such opportunity, and really we need to have such show like these, and really I appreciate everybody here in this show and the organizers of this show, and those who prepare for it, and really I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart on behalf of Palestinians. So thank you again.
Thank you for being with us, and we will just keep the chat open, right? And then we can just exchange whatever information.
Okay.
I'm gonna do now the intro, I think, the outro.
Yeah. I think.
Okay.
We will just continue with the next show soon about this again, and then we will just invite all of you again, and then just see if you have the time.
That would be great.
If we can keep to the same time slot. It's currently 1 a.m. South African time, but it suits me fine because the kids are asleep, everybody's asleep, and I've got an attempt. But we don't have to keep to the same time slot. Let's try and keep it weekly, but this time slot is perfect because there's no distractions on my side.
Okay, well, we can do that.
Okay, we're gonna.
It's fine.
Yeah. You're gonna do the outro.
Yeah, start the outro.
Of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
There's no central computer for them to go to and shut it down. They have to go all the way to the ends of every wire, and they have to snip all the cords across the globe if they want to try and stop it. The network is built so that there's nobody in charge, that everybody has control over their own communications.
The Million Mask March on November 5th is one of those days when Polymans come together, forget about their little fights, and join in a global march for freedom. It doesn't really matter what kind of mask you wear, we just march together. So if you've seen nothing If the crimes of the corrupt remain unknown to you, then we would suggest you allow the 5th of November to pass unmarked. But if you see what we see, if you feel as we feel, and if you seek as we seek, then we ask you to stand beside us on this day, and together we shall give them a 5th of November that shall never, ever be forgotten.